We are about 6 weeks into the season. I recently got out of prog and I have been going around doing some keys as enhance, and while it isn't actually in the so-called meta comp, I do think it is strong and definitely a candidate. I have been pugging keys in the 15 to 16 range for the last week, and I am doing very competitive damage at that level. I am typically beating out random DKs and boomies that I queue into. I don't have an actual team right now for this season, so I haven't been pushing super high keys. I did do a few keys with Yoda's team, and I was reasonably competitive on overall. I would typically be losing on AoE to the DK and Boomy a little bit, and then winning on single target a little bit. But all in all, I did feel like I was actually contributing to timing the key, and not just being carried or anything. I definitely do think the class is in a slightly weaker spot in terms of utility than some other classes, and I do think being melee is a bit of a downside this season, but I think it's not too big of a deal. And I think Disc Priest can fix any concern that Shamans would have about survivability. Now for what I think makes Enhance strong and weak, I think Enhance is a very consistent spec that can pretty much do good damage in every profile. Good single target, good AoE, good burst, good prio damage. However, I don't think it necessarily excels at any of these aspects. It won't always win in all of these profiles, and there are definitely classes that are better at one of these things. However, I think Enhance will never have a pull that it does not do good damage in. And I think one thing that is overlooked for Shaman is Sky Fury. I think Sky Fury is probably the strongest buff in the current meta. Sky Fury is very important for Unholy DK and actually increases their single target by about 7% in sims by giving them more procs of Death Coil. I think it tapers off a bit in AoE, but this still puts Sky Fury as the strongest group buff for damage, even above Mark. Sky Fury provides about 2% damage to balanced druids, so it is definitely better than Int if playing in place of a mage. Now to speak about the talents that I play, I do like Totemic, and I have settled on a single talent build that I play in every key. I think this build is the highest single target build that does not drop Sundering, and I think Sundering just does a bit too much damage on AoE to drop it. If you aren't dropping Sundering, then I couldn't find any build that makes Stormblast better on single target than this, so I don't ever run Stormblast. If you want a little bit more AoE, then you can take away one Elemental Assault and take Crashing Storms, but Crash Lightning and Chain Lightning are pretty weak now, so that node does not do much. A lot of people ask me about Stormbringer, and from what I'm seeing, Stormbringer actually is still good. There are a few high ranked shamans still playing Stormbringer. However, I don't think there is any notable difference in the profiles, and I personally think Totemic is a bit more flexible. Now to clarify on rotational things that are a bit ambiguous in my guide, for Elemental Blast, this is the spender that you use in every situation on single target and AoE. No matter what mob count, use Elemental Blast as your spender. If Elemental Blast is on cooldown, then you may use Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning. And we always run Witch Doctor's Ancestry now. Try to hold Wolves so that you always have it up when you press Primordial Storm. Sometimes you might even have to hold it for 10 to 15 seconds. And to talk about Ellie Shaman, I still don't think either Shaman spec is better than the other. Ellie definitely has an insane burst, stronger than any other class, but its consistent damage is really bad, whereas Enhance does not have this problem. Enhance is also a bit stronger defensively with Healing Surge, but Ellie has the advantage of being ranged. There are definitely positives and negatives of each spec, and I don't think one is necessarily better. So to summarize, I am happy with Enhance and Shaman. I think it's just on the edge of being really good. I am hopeful that there are some small nerfs coming for the top specs. I know there's a lot of discourse about Oracle Priest, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do a patch of M+ based class tuning. I am looking to put out a few videos about Enhanced Shaman in the next week about topics like macros, so stay tuned for that.